of the AFPRC are claiming that the alliance is not an individual thing but a negotiation between two people. Since Mr. Jame is no longer in the Gambia and constitutionally is bound to come in, they are going to form an alliance with Mr. Barrow, and they will continue to contest the election. Some others are seeing it as a ploy that may one day come with Mr. Jame back to the Gambia and he'll be on affairs of things. Finally, we are also into West Africa. There was an attempted coup in the Republic of Guinea Bissau. Guinea Bissau have actually experienced coup d'etat 4 times since they got independent in 1974, and the latest was actually in 2012. Now, Guinea Bissau claimed that they have thwarted a coup, according to the army spokesman. They said some people within the army who claim that they are the armed forces for the defense of the common people of Guinea Bissau, they were actually bribing some low-ranking and low-paid army officers who they wanted to buy their conscience with a few amounts of banknotes so that they can actually make a coup attempt to subvert the constitutional mandate of the elected government. However, they said those information were actually leaked from patriotic army, and those who were actually making an attempt to carry on that subversive act have been arrested, and they are helping the country with investigation. Then Emmanuel Macron, who is the president of France, promised that he wants to help Guinea-Bissau develop in their agriculture sector, and they are going to help them with any security that may actually expose people who may have intention to throw the country into further chaotic situation. So far, so good. These are the important news that are emanating out of West Africa and Africa as large.
Thank you very much, Edward Amara. Definitely a lot is going on around the continent, especially this coup attempt that you just mentioned, the Guinea-Bissau. You know, it's very, very unfortunate. That country is always in trouble, is in political trouble and turmoil all the time. We hope they are safe. We hope the people there are really safe, and there will be no further escalation of this sort. And then the issue in Ivory Coast, I think you didn't mention that, but also I think it's worthy to mention it that Laurent Gbagbo created a new party after his former prime minister actually seized the other party and refused to allow him to assume leadership of the party. You know, apparently he owns the party, but when he came back, a former prime minister was making deals with the state government and refused to allow him to have his place in the new party. So he decided to create a new party called the African People's Party, which has a Pan-African flavor. And he said his new struggle now will be Pan-Africanism, that throughout his term in jail and his experience as president, he found out that African states are very weak. He found out that we don't have military economic sovereignty, and the only way forward is to join what is happening around the world called the Great Union. The United States is a great union of states. European Union is a great union. Russia is a great union. China is a great union. And unless Africa create a great union, political union, we will not be able to take part at the dinner table of civilization. So it's important to your point that. So let's go to our topic before we does the Liberian government really want a war crime code? Edward Amara, this is a very, very interesting topic. Since the Truth and Reconciliation Commission released its final report and recommendation in 2009, there has been lack of political will to implement the TRC recommendation. And people are asking, from Ellen Johnson Sirleaf now to George Weah. George Weah is going to second term. Does the Liberian government, we are talking to the current government now, really want a war crime court, or they are playing political games? We know when they were in the opposition, they were throwing caskets all around Monrovia. They said they wanted a war crime court. I remember their chairman, Moluba Molu, was outspoken. He was everywhere. He said he wanted a war crime court. Since those guys said their foot in the executive mansion, everything went quiet. They are now speaking from the other side of their mouth. So we really want to know, what's your opinion on this, Edward Amara? Do they really want a war crime court, or they are actually trying to do like Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, just play the political game until their time is over?
Thank you very much. I think my answer is simple. It's a capital no. I cannot see the interest from the Liberian government intending to establish a war and economic crime into Liberia. It is because we have a lot of things that are entangled with the current Liberian leadership. It is just unfortunate and quite amazing that those who violated the rights or the liberties of Liberians plundered the country into a kind of chaotic situation that lasted over 14 years, committed atrocities into the country. They are still the one that are having upper hand. Having said that, the Liberian government does not have that sincere intention to create any economic and war crimes caught into Liberia as their former regime or the past government led by Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. Because Liberia government is still engulfed with people who actually perpetrated war crimes into Liberia. And these people are still the decision makers. They are still very influential. They have the money, they have the power, and they have the connections. So if actually after the 14-year civil war into Liberia, you do not have people like, even before the 14-year civil war could end, you saw a rebel leader coming into power who lasted there for some time, Charles Taylor. He planted people who were his sympathizers, though he left, but he still have his sympathizers within the government, and he made those people well-known, well-influential, and wealthy. And when he left the government, we saw another person who partook into the war of Liberia, Ellen Johnson, coming on the helm of affairs. She knew exactly what it would have taken to create a war and economic crime into Liberia, caught into Liberia. Because at the end of the day, she, as the head of the executive, will have also been implicated, as the Truth and Reconciliation Commission report clearly stated. And when she left, in 2018, we saw a kind of football star, a celebrity who have little or no knowledge about previous public administration. He came into power. Maybe everybody thought that it was the better hope that Liberia is now being led by somebody who does not have any direct or indirect connection with the civil war, the 14-year civil war that took place into the country. Unfortunately, he had also other people like Edwin Snoove. You talk about Prince Johnson Sirleaf, Sando Johnson, and even Jurel Hawatilo, who is the current deputy, still wielding power into Liberia. Economically, they are influential, they have political power, and they are well known or somehow connected. So coming to create the war crime into Liberia is a matter of a far-fetched idea, because these people, we stand against the idea, and they are well influential, they can influence it. So the Liberian government does not have that absolute intention to create war crime, because Joshua will be prosecuting his own people who are sympathizing with his idea. And Prince Johnson, Prince Ahmad Johnson is very influential, Snoop and others, Sando and others, and they are all senators. Some of them are well placed, well known, well connected. So I'm not seeing anything like that. Liberia does not have that clear intention to create a war crime into their country. Unlike Sierra Leone, it was the opposite. Unlike Yugoslavia was the opposite. What different of country? Myanmar or Burma, it was the opposite. When Liberia, we are really, really seeing something different. So that particular intention, no, it is not really clear, and they do not want it. They just want to buy time. And maybe finally, we may not want to be blamed. He be definitely not want to be blamed, because he's the head of the executive. And if he institute that particular war economic crime into Liberia, most people sympathize with the idea. Maybe they will try to call him a betrayer, because he came, he persuaded them to join his own political party. They won the election. He's now on the helm of affairs. If he decide to prosecute those people, it's like sending them out of power and to install him. Sometimes he may not want to be independently blamed. So there is no intention, no genuinity into everything.
Right, Edward Amara, I kind of agree with you there, but here's the issue. One can make a case and say that the reason why Ellen Johnson Sirleaf did not establish the WCC is because she has blood on her hands. But what do you say to George Weah, like you rightly mentioned? This man never took part in the war. Why would he refuse to establish this institution? So for me, what I really look at here is the different point of view and opinion in the country, because for government, we can't really tell, because we are not in government to understand whether there are political implications, whether they are afraid to lose elections because they find that the country is divided on the issue. Probably there are some political reasons why every government that comes want to really play it silent on this whole issue. But what I do know is that there are different opinions, and I'm going to mention some of them right now. Because even though in Liberia we don't have this opinion poll like you have in the US, when there's such a crucial matter in the country, then the media go out there and give the public opinion, make opinion polls to know where the nation stands. On our case, we don't have those. But we've heard from prominent Liberians, we've heard from civil society groups, we've heard from different people, and here are some of the views. We have here, let the sleeping dog lie. That's 1/4 of Liberians. This is what they believe. And this statement came from Councillor James Levely Sipu. He advised the Liberian, he's a councillor, he's a lawyer. He was actually invited by the Senate to advise the Liberian government on the issue of WCC. They asked him, what is the legal advice you can give on this issue? Should we establish a war crime court? Will it go against our constitution? Do you think it will affect our laws? So he said, let the sleeping dog lie. In other words, we've come too far. Let us not establish a war crime court like Sierra Leone. This was a family fight. We had a misunderstanding. We made our mistakes. So let's just get over it. Let's reconcile and then go go our ways and then start thinking about the future. Some Liberians share this view. And if you go on the street there, believe me, you'll find Liberians who say, let the sleeping dog lie and forget about this whole thing. I don't belong to that group, but that's another, that's the first opinion. And then you have other people who are saying it's a misplaced priority because Sierra Leone spent $40 million to try Taylor. So they said it's a misplaced priority right now. Our infrastructure is bad. Our people need food. We've not even helped the Zogos on the street. We've not even built our roads yet. And we want to spend millions of dollars to go and look for child soldiers and start trying them. Is that what we want to do right now? So there are people who are saying it's a misplaced priority. Then you have another people who are saying, look, it should be a restorative justice and not a retributive justice. Because when we do a restorative justice, then we find a way to bring the victims and the perpetrators for them to reconcile. If we do that, then we can turn the page. But if we want to go for retributive justice to punish people, then we might end up creating chaos and anarchy because some people participated in this war as child soldiers. They were children. They were recruited. They did not even know why they were fighting. The system broke down. There was no leadership, and people found themselves in the middle of the river, and they had to survive. Some people make this opinion. But then a good majority, the last one here, a good majority of the Liberian population say we have to end the culture of impunity. If we do not establish the WCC, then this culture of impunity will continue. Another generation will come, and when they get angry, they will settle their differences with guns on the street of Monrovia again, because there was no implication for those who did it in the previous generation. But if we prosecute and try people right now and set the scores and what Mr. Blai called restore order, bring back order, and then we can be able to turn the page. Then it will serve as a deterrent to a new generation that if you don't kill people, you don't rape women, you don't destroy the country and go free, there will be consequences. So that's what a good majority is saying. So in my opinion, the Liberian government is having this dilemma with all these different opinions I just stated, or different points of view. They are struggling as to where to go. The money aspect, the economic aspect, the differences, the people who are saying let the sleeping dog lie. So Amara, will you add something to that? These different opinions that I just mentioned that are all around the country. Every Liberian you add, they will fall in one of these categories.
I can't agree with you more. Nevertheless, I can agree with those less who think that the war crime shouldn't be established into Liberia. We all know that the failure of any government to prosecute those who bear or bore the greatest responsibility in a 14-year civil war that ravaged the economy of the country, destroyed life and property, will be like continuing the culture of impunity. I think they may have sounded the opinions of many Liberians, but we are also watching at the quality of the opinion. Because anybody who is soundly educated, even if you are not soundly educated, but if you have some amount of objectivity in your thinking, you will understand that if a war and economic crime cannot be established into Liberia to hold those who bore the greatest responsibility into the 14 years, be like continuing the culture of impunity and another generation become up. It is actually bad to set a bad precedent because expecting anything like that to continue happening. You rightly said, and I can agree with you usually with most of what you have just mentioned, because that is what normally we were expecting to happen into a situation like that. But mind you, once when this issue was actually, because I think all of this ended in 2009 when these submissions were being made, and in Sierra Leone it started in 2002 and it ended in 2013. And about some around 30 people were persecuted from the age of from sentenced to life from 15 to 52 years in prison. I agree with the fact that the government of Sierra Leone spent over $40 million on the court, but it was actually from personal contribution, donor, given, and the international help and other areas Sierra Leone was able to persecute those people. But a precedent has been set and a kind of determination have been laid that anybody who may have that intention to come and invade this country, another war, you may end up being like Mosquito, who is now dead. Fode Sanko is dead. Well, yeah, General Isa Sisi and others are actually in prison in Luanda. Chastelo is actually in prison in UK or in London. So we are seeing all of those things. Unfortunately, Liberia did not live up to that expectation. And once Prince Johnson sounded an opinion that should a war and economic crime is being established into Liberia, he's actually going to ensure that the country is turned backward, meaning his war is still going to come. They said some fear was injected into certain Liberians. But Stephen Rapp, who was actually a former prosecutor of the special court in Sierra Leone, who is an American, said he has been out of the bush for 27 years. Maybe his guns are broken and dusted, so he's not going to have church power. Some of these things actually went into the opinion like that. Do not forget that some of these well-named people, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, you talk about Edwin Snow, you talk about Sando Johnson, you talk about Joel Howard Taylor, and others, they are well placed, they have the money, they can bribe the system, turn down the idea of agenda of these people who are ill-educated, and they can still be safe. So trust me, those opinions are actually right, but we are watching at the majority and the fate of the country. We want them to set a precedent. Should a war crime not be established into Liberia, it is not actually going to go down well with the layman, and anything could happen in the future, because we're seeing that. Because even Johnson, he partook into the killing of Doe in 1990. Also, that is one of the worst killing of ever a president could be killed into such status. And he actually masterminded most of Chastelo's Nifaros and Chastelo and others are there. If they are under prosecution, nobody should be exempt. I think a war crime court need to be established into Liberia to delete that particular last statement, to end the culture of impunity. Or as anybody can do it with the notion that what has happened. It was in the family war. It was a kind of civil war by the brutal rebel war that women were killed, raped, and properties were vandalized. We saw everything happen. For 14 good years, Liberia has been backward, and it still has a ramification on the current government. So that is why we want things to happen the right way. Let precedent be set as other countries.
Let precedent be set like other countries. Edward Amara there. So let's take this. This brings us to the second question. Does Liberia have the financial power, the human resources, the infrastructure to try people who allegedly committed war crimes in the country? Edward Amara, this fall under what I call misplaced priority that I just talked about. There are Liberians, analysts, economists, who are saying, look, you have broken infrastructure, your educational system is not good, your water system is nothing, electricity, people don't even have roads. They can travel to their various counties. And you want to spend $50 million, $100 million maybe to try people, to look for these Zogos who can afford 2 cups of rice, to start looking for them just to try them. Why? You don't even have roads, you don't have hospitals, you don't have medical facility. Isn't that a misplaced priority? People are making this argument. For me, it's actually a beautiful. It's very, very important. It's not like people who are making this argument are illogical. No, it's a very logical argument actually. However, justice is very, very important. There is no civilization without justice. That's my own observation. You cannot establish any society called a civilization where you bring a group of people together with a social contract, and there is an order, and then that order is broken, and then there is no justice, and you want to continue like that, it's not going to work. It's even against nature. It's against the natural law of things. You see, in African philosophy, there is what we call ma'at. The ma'at means order, justice, balance, and reciprocity. This is how the universe works. In the earth that we live on, is function within a system. It's called the solar system. And this solar system functions within another system called the galaxies. And these systems are working perfectly. If there is disorder in this system, there will be destruction. So the creator, for a very good reason, make sure that the earth is a certain distance from the sun. Everything is arranged. The stars, the moon, they are all arranged. That is a natural order. So in our society as well, we should follow this pattern. There should be order in everything we do. So whenever there is chaos, you have to bring back balance. And the only way to bring balance in a society or civilization is through justice. If you don't do that, you messed up the culture, you messed up the mindset, you messed up the educational system of the new generation, and you can never have peace. You can never have a real civilization if you do not establish justice. The reason why America works, the reason why European countries are working is because if you do anything, you will be brought to book. You don't do anything in those countries and go scot-free. Even tax, if you mess up with their tax, they will come after you. You break a red light, you're driving, and then you cross the red light, they will come after you. Any little thing you do, you'll be brought to justice. That's why their system works. But for us, we overlook these little things. We overlook them, so our system is disorganized. So we cannot build a civilization because we don't have justice system. So I believe the war crime code is necessary in order to bring order, even to our mind, to our culture. It will have to establish, even though I have a slightly bit different opinion on how the justice should look like, but I do believe that without justice, there will be no order. Edward Amara, what's your take on this issue of whether Liberia has the financial power, the resources, all the beautiful excuses?
Oh, thank you very much. I think based on the current status of Liberia, if you logically or keenly analyze the Liberia economy, you will understand that they do not have the financial power, they do not have the infrastructure, and they do not have the human resource to do this thing particularly, to do this particular trial independently. However, since the coming of Ellen Johnson Sirleaf in power, that government has never been willing to establish a war crime court, because government is a matter of continuity. And if the government have actually come in with the intention to establish a war crime court into Liberia to hold those who bear the greatest responsibility of the pain, the infliction that was actually imposed on common Liberians who suffered the 14-year civil war, up to now they are living with the disappointment, the traumatic situation, and they are also living with the frustration, it would have been better. But we all know when Ellen Johnson took over, she was not interested into establishing a war crime, because people who participated into the war equally as she does, we are not interested. So the infrastructure was not laid. The human resource was not capacitated to do such thing. And those who were, when we watch at the infrastructure, watch at the human resource, and even watch at the economic power, those things we are not advocated for. So from the onset, the Liberian government had been interested into the persecution. Mind you, we all started, it was SFPP started the persecution of those people, but everything ended during the APC regime. So a government is a kind of matter of continuity. So we are expecting that. Today, arguably, those things are not available. They are not available because the government, the successful government, have been an obstacle towards the creation of the court itself. If those government or those in governance, we are not obstacle towards the creation of it itself, trust me, we would have had things like that. Politicians have embezzled money into Liberia almost equivalent to that size that we are speaking about here. Liberia is one of the corrupt countries that we have into Africa. So politicians they are mismanaging, embezzling, and trying to just disfigure the country economy affairs. And a lot of Liberians are suffering today. So what we need is justice. And if they had put forward such a kind of notion to the international community, they would have helped, because it was a sound call, not only made by civil activists into Liberia, but international community made it, UN made it, and all other people, even after, because everything happened from 1989 to 1996, and from 1996 and from 1999 to 2000 to 2002. So all of those things will happen, and this year at the time the war crime based on the recommendation of the TRC. And if the TRC have recommended that, I think if the government, just the way our government is now into, they went into America the other time, also when they were chastising them on social media, going to lobby, I think they would have lobbied for the establishment of a war crime court to Liberia to bring justice to those who have violated, but clearly indicating that the government is not economically strong, financially strong, and does not have the infrastructure to institute the court. It could be like a hybrid court. A hybrid court is a court system.
What the critics are arguing is that this money, why can't it be used to take care of the victims? There were victims during the war. They are still there in West Point. They are still there in Claratown. They are still there in Point Four. They are still in these poor slums. And why can't you use that $20 million, $40 million, $100 million and then build something for these people? Take care of them first. Instead of you using that, that's the argument they are making. They said that money could be redirected to take care, because we don't even have good infrastructure. We don't even have, then we are busy all around. We want to build courts. We want to collect money. Those donors, we could as well ask them to give us money so that we can. Our city was listed recently to be one of the most dirtiest cities, allegedly by somebody from the European Union. With those kind of, international reputation, it's so bad that people are saying, now, why can't we just redirect this fund to development first? Once we get to a certain level, maybe 2, 3, 4 decades from now, when we can talk about justice, we can talk about going back in the past and find out what happened. That's the argument the critics are making. They say you use the money for something else.
But we are when the war crime court has not been established, are the victims being taken care of? They have been disappointed, frustrated, and even they look up to the life. When George Weah came into power, he made that statement in 2018, and that was his constitutional mandate, and he announced even during his inauguration that he's going to ensure that these people are going to pay for the crime that they committed into Liberia. Instead, he started to buy time, shift blame, and send it to the legislature for approval. And since he received a bulk number of people, we are seeing obstacles coming towards it. Okay, arguably, yes, money would have been spent, and those money would have been given to the war victims. But afterwards, no courts have been actually established in Liberia to find those perpetrators guilty and persecuted. And then you are not seeing any other packages being given to these people that we are going to divert the package that would have been meant to establish a war crime court and to try your oppressors, your suppressors. Let us develop these people. These war victims are still abandoned. They are likely living in poverty, and they are frustrated. Maybe don't know that nothing like that would have been given to them, or at least if they would have seen their prosecutors into prison, their oppressors, those who violated them into prison. But up to now, when you get into Liberia, you sense that frustration. And the lay Liberian, if you ask them today, who are very objective in nature, we so. But do not underestimate these gullible politicians, because I call them gullible. They are not sensible enough because we understand their own ploy, but they have managed to manipulate and mentally colonize the layman idea. And today now we are seeing they are buying time. They are buying. George Weah does not even want to create session because he wouldn't want to be independently blamed. So we're watching at a system like that. Maybe creating a war crime court into Liberia will set a very good precedent, and it would not allow the system to be distorted like this. If a war crime court failed to be established into Liberia, it could be like what used to happen into northern part of Africa. Arguably, with the exception of some part of Eastern Africa, the North Africa was well developed compared to any other state, but it was led by dictators. And today we are seeing what happened since after 2010, the Arab uprising. The economy of that region has been totally brought down. It is because you cannot establish development or make development when you have a dictator into power. It's the same thing in Liberia. Because a war crime court will not be created, I'm not saying it is possible, but in the long future, people may use that as a precedent to come with another gullible revolution into Liberia that may destroy life and property with the notion that no precedent like that was set. In Sierra Leone, It's a very different case. Anybody who may want to come with what we think twice and you understand where your colleagues are today, and we definitely tend to follow suit. Everybody knows the precedent that have been created. Some people are going for 50 or 60 years into prison. We are seeing Jibilu Masakwe. You are talking about others who we are actually coming on social media pleading that they should be forgiven. They are suffering enough. They fought for this country. Those precedents are over there, and we're having videos of those messages being circulated. So anybody who thought about that, you will never come with war into Liberia. Unfortunately, Liberia, things like that are not created. So on the flip side, I am definitely against the idea for a war crime court not to be created and thinking that let bygones should be bygones. No justice cannot, no reconciliation cannot happen into a country without justice. Justice comes after before reconciliation. It cannot be the other way around.
All right. Thank you very much, Edward Amara. That's a valid point. You need justice before reconciliation, and not reconciliation before justice. That's a very, very powerful point there, and I agree. So that takes us to the third question here before we go for our first break. Edward Amara, what would be at stake in Liberia if a war crime court is not established? So you have the two extremes. There you have those who are pessimistic and those who are optimistic. So the pessimists are saying, look, if you don't establish a war crime court, the culture of impunity, that's my opinion, and the culture of impunity will continue. Okay, you have people who think they can kill president, they can do things what they like, and then there will be no consequences. Another generation of Liberians, maybe in the next century, or maybe before the end of the century, might likely repeat it because there have been nothing. Because in psychology, if someone does something and then there is no repercussion, they are likely to repeat it again because the law of pleasure or say I've done this and nothing happened. So you keep the attitude will repeat again. But when there is a deterrent, something deter you when you do it the first time, you feel pain. You do it again, you feel pain. You are likely to think twice before you do it again. So if the war crime court is not established, the culture of impunity will definitely continue. And then Liberia, the reputation in the international community as a country that is very lawless, that is not a very good thing. When we try to do business with other countries, we try to bring investors. We are trying to industrialize, to convince some of these investors to come in our country. They're going to open your history. They're going to go through the pages of your history and say, what country is this and how am I sure that my investment will be secure? Then they look at it, oh, this country fought a deadly civil war, and some of the warlords are in the Senate, some of the warlords are in the police, some of the warlords are the one who are law enforcement agents. So the billionaires or the investor will say, what? No, I'm not taking my money there. That country is sitting on time bomb. It's going to explode anytime. In fact, if I run into issues there, I'm not sure of getting justice because their justice system has collapsed. So I'm not sure of getting justice if my investment, if I run into some financial trouble or legal trouble in that country, I don't think I will have fair hearing. So that's another issue there. Also, you have the history of the country, how it will be taught in schools, the psychology of the new generation. What are they going to be taught in school? That for 16 years, we brutalize people, we slaughter ourselves, we kill ourselves, and after everything, we went to our churches and our mosques, and we say, hallelujah, alhamdulillah, and we continue with life. That's what we're going to be teaching the next generation. So people kill people and nothing happened. That's what is going to happen. So, and it's not going to help the new generation to have a new foundation. So these are things that I see that are at stake. The psychology, the mental health of our people is at stake. The justice system and the security of the nation itself is at stake. And our economy, our reputation in the international community. We are looking for investors. All these things are at stake. So I think it's very important that this WCC comes to Liberia. But like I said, I have a slight different view. For me, I am for restorative justice, not necessarily retributive justice. And I will state my opinion. I will state my reasons. Because for me, this war, there are so many things to it. It didn't just begin overnight This tribe hate this tribe. That's not how it started. You need to go to the foundation of the country, one party rule. You have a class system, the elitist system, that a group of elite ruled the country for nearly more than a century, and they did something oppression, and there was a revolution to counter that. The revolution went wrong. The revolution ate its own children. Then everything de-escalated, and then the oppression, the corruption, all led to anger, the deep-seated anger in people. They decided to revolt against the system, and eventually things went wrong. So you have to look at it holistically. We have to also look at the external factors, people who contributed from big countries, from industrialized countries, sponsored this war so that they could sell their own weapons. They have their own interest. So all these things are there. So if you think you will bring everything on board, you look at it, it was a system that failed. So we need to go toward the restorative justice, restore the system. People that need to be pointed out committed obvious war crimes, because war have rules of engagement. People who committed obvious war crimes, that you meet a civilian who has no gun and you shoot them, you kill them. You meet civilian and you rape women. All those things are not part of the war, part of war. So the rules of engagement, if you violate that, then according to Geneva Convention, we have to try you. But the war itself, the origin, we have to make sure we go toward restorative justice to restore the Liberian dream, the Liberian vision that the ancestors had before they established that country. So it's not necessarily about putting people behind bars. It's not necessarily about locking up people, but it's about finding out, why did we fight? What caused this war? Why did we even go back to semi-barbarism and start butchering ourselves on the street? What led to that psychology? For me, that's what I want us to pursue. Once we know that, then we can be able to prevent it from happening in the future. Edward Amara.
Thank you very much. I just keenly listened to most of your submission. In the first place, except Liberia want to bastardize a repetition before the international community, and they will term her as a weakling state who does not take recommendation based on a popular reconciliation, Truth and Reconciliation Commission sponsored by international community, and they asked them to, they recommended those things for the sustenance of peace into Liberia. Mind you, the TRRC report is meant to sustain peace and to set precedent that people like that should not continue doing it. And he also telling the world that Liberia is so weak to understand that she cannot do anything on her own. That is the first place. And as you stated certain things, they are going to establish a culture, something like what one of the biggest things that will be at stake will also come in another thing into life, establishing the culture of impunity into Liberia. And mind you, this war was not just sponsored by Liberians themselves. It was sponsored by people of high place interest, people who are outside Liberia as foreigners. And anybody who is a foreigner can also sponsor another chaotic situation into a country like Liberia, with the notion that nothing will come out of it, just the way this was going to happen. In the case of Liberia, of Sierra Leone, Naomi Campbell and other people, we have been invaded. People who have been held responsible and persecuted. Even British citizens are suffering because of certain things. Liberia has not established that culture. So it's like they are qualifying the culture of impunity into Liberia, establishing it, and giving people the belief that any foreigner can.
Sorry, we're having some glitches there, Edward Amara. Yeah, sorry, we have the network issue. Edward Amara, my co-host, will be back soon. So, well, folks, like what he was saying, that our reputation before the international community is at stake. Well, how will they look at our country? How will they view us as a people, as a civilization, that we can butcher them people on the street, we can create chaos, and at the end of the day, we go to our places of worship and say, let bygone be bygone. There's no accountability. There is no investigation. There is no proper, thorough investigation as to what really happened, and give justice to people and make people to believe that their life is important and their life is protected by the state. Once people feel that they are not protected in the republic, then they do not feel proud of their nationality. So the entire mindset of the country, like what you have right now in Liberia. Edward Amara, welcome back. I was just trying to buttress some of the things you were saying.
Yes, as I was saying, so it is now creating that culture, giving people the belief that anybody can do anything. Then even this could be set as a very good precedent because we're having generations who are coming after us. Like in Sierra Leone, anybody we know that the war started in 1993 and ended in 2002, and those who fought and bore the greatest responsibility into the war are prosecuted, and today they are in prison, and nobody should be actually allowed to do such thing because should you do it, you will end up like that. That's a very confined precedent, and we are now updated. It is now updated into their system. You get into school, you learn about the war. So if we are learning about the civil war into Liberia, if I'm a PP at any school, civil war into Liberia, I may learn about the nefarious activities committed by Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, by Charles Taylor, Prince Johnson, by Alhaji G.B. Kroman, by Sekou Damati Kone, by you name them, there are many. But I wouldn't learn about anything that, any retribution of sin that they have. I wouldn't learn about any penalty that was given to them. So any rebel can emanate from things like that and continue doing such things. That culture has definitely. So these things are all at stake. And above all, as I rightly said, should a war crime court not be established into Liberia, Liberia is going to be presented as a weakling country. We are people who may do some harm against an established country, deteriorating the citizen status, doing whatsoever thing, those people will go court-free. So these things are definitely at stake. Then even the justice system into Liberia, everybody's going to tell me that it's very weak because if their own citizens can be persecuted, wrongly oppressed, tortured, raped, killed, and their property destroyed, that government was actually empowered to conduct a Truth and Reconciliation Commission. Recommendations were being made, and they failed to live up to that expectation. So any foreigner life could be at stake. That's exactly what is going to see. So I think we are going to watch at Liberia as a failed system, because the failed system, when it fails, the justice system is not going to be guaranteed. And should that war crime court not establish into Liberia, it can even prevent investment, because people properties we are destroying to that country, they may not be paid back. Foreigners we are killed. So all of those things are observing those people. Everything they are observing, the foreigners we are killed, foreign businesses we are destroyed, international trust will destroy all of those things. Now they are still trying to delay the establishment of the war crime court. That one is seriously going to create trouble, and it's not ordered down well for the lay Liberians. So we are watching at the future, the implication, what will happen on Liberia should this war crime court not be established.
Thank you very much, Edward Amara. And I agree with you more. Our global image, the global image of Liberia is at stake. Our culture, our values are at stake. What kind of people are they that build a nation, brutalized, killed themselves, slaughtered themselves on the street, and a decade later they went to their houses of worship and say, "Forgive us, O Lord," while the victim cry in pain and agony, women that were raped remain without justice. What kind of people are we going to be in the future? What will our future generations say about us? What will they think of us? As savages or civilized people? That's what is at stake. And we will take a short break and we will be back. Please don't go away. When we come back, we have more questions to discuss with Edward Amara.
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jah.
Welcome back. Thank you for watching Focus on Liberia. This is Roundtable Africa, and I'm Sekou Kela, your host. I'm here with my co-host and partner, Edward Amara, and we are discussing the topic, does the Liberian government really want a war crime court? Folks, we will read your comment, and then we'll take one or two more questions before we leave. So let's see here what our viewers are saying. Cleo Play, let me have put it highlighted here on the screen. We have Cleo Play Jogbe. Sorry if I don't pronounce your name right. How are you doing? And I'm watching from Liberia, Monrovia. Thank you for watching Focus on Liberia. Martin Wiema Brown. I strongly believe that Liberians are desirous of a WCC, but those in authority are manipulating this and circumventing the establishment of WCC. On the contrary, Liberians themselves are electing warlords to the legislature that are thwarting the establishment of the code. Therefore, blames are shifted. A lot of dilemmas there. So, Cleo, please, again, sorry if I don't pronounce your name well. Liberians themselves are willing, but our leadership are too bad to us. Yes, the lack of political will is what he said. Dennis Koti, good afternoon, FOL host. I'm watching from my lake corner. Enjoy your lake corner, my brother. We have Prince M. Double. If Ellen Johnson Sirleaf and those 41 names that we have removed by Jerome Vardia are replaced on the list, then we can talk about WCC in Liberia. Unfortunately, Jerome Vardia was supposed to be here today to clear this, but for some unavoidable circumstances, he was not able to come. Dennis Koti, the ordinary Liberians are willing to see themselves liberated through the War and Economic Crime Code. But the current Liberian government and even the major political bloc, the CPP, does not have the political will. However, there are still some coming into the political arena who have the strongest conviction that the War and Economic Crime Code in Liberia is the only way forward. Example, Councillor Taiwan Gonglo, who advocated for the code over a year, will definitely establish. Well, that's optimism there, or selling a candidate, I don't know. Alfred Dennis, Liberia and Sierra Leone, they are not poor. If our neighbor Sierra Leone can do it, Liberia can do it. I agree. Then here we are, Alfred Dennis again. He said, we justice, that's why the War Economic Crime Code, well, I don't know what he's trying to say. The last comment here, Arthur Freeman, the answer is no, because the GOL does not, the GOL does not have the political will to push that agenda. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for contributing. You can also call in. We have our number at the bottom here. You can call later on after so that you can give your own contribution as well. If you want to participate in the discussion, the number is on the screen. In a few minutes, we will open the lines so you can call and make your own contribution. Edward Amara, let's take the fourth question now. Let's deal with the comment first. Somebody said, let's deal with the comment before we take this question. What do you think? If someone said in the comment section there that, look, there are some names taken off the list, I don't want to go into that. But there's another one that said, look, if the CPP, okay, the opposition bloc that is now, rival to CDC, we have people in there who are trying to push the agenda. But I see the hypocrisy as well, because this same CPP, you have the Liberia, the former ruling party, which is a unity party headed by Joseph Boakai. They were in power just a few years ago. They didn't do anything. Boakai never made a statement. He didn't say anything. In fact, we have these people on tape. They are trying to say that we should take the sleep, let the sleeping dog lie. That's been the opinion of most of these people during their presidential debate or so a few years ago. Most of them said it, that we should let the sleeping dog lie. We should say bygone should be bygone. We should let this thing go. So for them now, the time for campaign, political campaign, and they're now saying, we want war crime code. For me, it's the same hypocrisy. We are recycling these politicians. They are the same people. Joseph Boakai cannot perform miracles that he did not perform when he was with Ellen. He cannot perform that miracle now. It will be the same thing. These are the same people. You are recycling these politicians, and you think that when they come to the table, then the event, they will just change overnight. They will change their attitude overnight. No, you look at the record. That's the only thing you look at the record. What did he do yesterday? You see, that's what you look at to judge people, because we don't know the future. We are not God. So we can only look at people's past to be able to determine, to be able to judge them. So I think these people in CPP are jokers. They are not going to bring about the WCC. It's a joke. If CDC could not do it, they cannot do it. Edward Mara, what do you think?
I can't agree with you more. You see, one thing, the CPP are also deceivers. They relegated Liberians hoping to them. and they promoted the culture of impunity into Liberia. Having knowing that they are no longer in power, the CDC are in power, they are coming opposing and making a kind of belief or presenting a kind of ideology that they are in sympathy or they are apologists of the establishment of the war crime. These are trained and qualified liars. Nobody should trust them because they had all the opportunity to establish the war crime court into Liberia. So what they are sounding today, it's a kind of bad conscience. They want to use it as a means for coming into power. So Liberians should listen to them keenly, understand people who they should elect into power for the coming election. Because people who are willing to come up with prosecution for what happened, that is exactly, these people are deceivers. They are only trying to buy time, trying to present a situation that may favor their political urge, their political ambition. But they are not as serious as they are speaking. Their intention is quite different from what they are saying. These people, I don't believe and I don't trust into their mentality because they participated into everything that is a failure today. So nobody will trust these politicians. They are no different from the we-are-led government because they had all the opportunity to do what we are is failing to do today. And today the Liberians are watching at them. So let them listen keenly and understand what to do.
All right, and Mara, so we will take just one more question because of time. So I will try to put things together. So we'll try because we are running out of time here, and we need to open the line for the callers. What impact will the establishment of a war crime court have on the country? We are referring to Liberia now. So talking about impact, Edward Mara, what do you think? We've already talked about the consequences if it is not established. Now we are looking at the impact. I think that's just like the positive aspect of it. For me, I think, like we already mentioned, it will restore order. Okay, it will restore order. Justice is everything. Without justice, look, you can't build a civilization. It's very clear. It's in African philosophy. If you hear about Ubuntu, if you hear about all these African concepts are enshrined in justice, because without justice, there is no system. When the difference between animals and human beings is that we establish a civilization. We don't live in a jungle. And in a civilization, there is a social contract. There is a rule of law. There are certain rules we agree to live by. If that rule is broken, we need justice. The only reason why a woman is walking on the street right now and no lunatic is going to jump on her on the street and then start raping her is because there is law that prevents that from happening. So if the system is broken, anybody can see any woman on the road and they jump on her. But because we are not animals, we are civilized beings, we are Homo sapiens sapiens. We have established a culture, we have a civilization, we have a system. So there should be consequences for every action. You see, we cannot be animals and say, Lord, let everything just happen, let us just jump over it. No, we are not living in a jungle. So when something happens, there has to be justice. So I think the impact will be, it will have positive impact. There will be order. The new generation of Liberian will say, look, this is what our ancestors did. We cannot repeat it. Then they will be able to do things right. It will also create a positive image into the international community, to our partners, and say these people are very serious people. This is what happened in your history, and they fixed the problem, and now they are moving ahead. So we will be taken seriously. When we speak out there, people listen and say Liberians are no jokers. These people have a very, very well-organized society, and you don't do things and go free. That's what is going to happen. Our history will be taught properly in school. Our students will now understand where we started, where our history stands, and what are the mistakes we made, and what we've done to correct those mistakes. So they will give a new chapter to the new generation so that they'll be able to move forward. So nobody wants to be identified with a warlord. No, nobody will want to celebrate a warlord when you establish a war crime court. But right now, people sing praises. There's a warlord when he is not in my tribe. But when he's in my tribe, then he's a hero. But then when he's in your tribe, then he's warlord. That's what is happening right now because there is no established institution to provide an objective account of what happened. So right now, what we have is every group is protecting their warlord. Okay, the tribe X says these people they call warlord are my hero. Then the tribe B said these people they call warlord are my hero. So everybody is holding on to their own warlord as a hero. Until we have a system that we all agree on, that those who broke the rules of engagement, those who disrupted the system will be brought to book, then we will now, all of us will now have the same consciousness. We'll be on the same page. We'll have the same understanding. Then the nation can move forward. Amara.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think, as you rightly stated, the impacts are going to be positive. One, the culture of impunity is going to be deleted. Secondly, Liberia is going to gain international trust. Then those who we have violated during the 14-year civil war, we regain their confidence into the government or into those who are actually governing, those in power. And there will be potential for future peace into Liberia. And those who actually fought the war, destroyed life and property, will no longer continue to be celebrated as heroes. Unfortunately, today, after all the atrocities that they committed into Liberia, they are still watched as heroes. They are still seen as liberators. They are still continuing plundering the economy. Even after killing those Liberians, the like of Prince Johnson and others are still being paid by taxpayers' money. So are they paying them because of the annihilation, the destruction, the trauma, the frustration, even the catastrophe or even disaster, I can describe it, so they brought on Liberia, they are still being paid. So all of those things are going to be eliminated. And I believe the international community will take Liberia more seriously than how they are taking them, because they would see them as a country whose back is not worse than his bite. But as far as I'm concerned, with all what has happened, Liberia government is more like a bulldog that barks but does not bite. The back of the government is worse than a bite. So we are watching at these things. So the impact is just going to reconstruct and present Liberia image into a very strong one. And maybe any government that may institute the court will repackage Liberia image to understand that a lot of investors are going to come into the country, stability is going to be assured, and potential lessons are going to be learned positively, and that impact will even help to create a generation, a responsible generation, because no generation will watch at the activities of the like of Ellen Johnson Sheriff, talk about Jure Hawatilo, Charles Taylor, Alaji G.B. Kroma, Prince Johnson, and even the Sheku Damatic and a lot of others. Nobody will watch them to be celebrating them as heroes, because we know that they actually pay for the that they committed. And if lessons are to be learned into school, children will take those lessons positively. But for now, anybody reading the history of Liberia and seeing those who actually did all those wrong things, they are living on a free, fair, and peaceful atmosphere, they will think that the culture of impunity is actually breeding into Liberia.
All right. Thank you very much, Edward Amara. I agree with you. Your points are very, very valid at this moment. So we don't have callers yet. So for Amara, I think we will have to close here. So you can close on this point. Which lessons can Liberia learn from Sierra Leone, who successfully established a war crime code? You can make your concluding statement, while explaining this particular, trying to answer this particular question.
I think Liberia need to learn a lot. Sierra Leone, after the civil war, the 10-year civil war, she established a war crime court and held those who bore the greatest responsibility into the country accountable. Today they are in prison. They are positively learning those lessons in schools. As I say, part of the national history in Sierra Leone, they have the war, the causes of the war, and the consequences into Sierra Leone, and the recommendation of the TRC, the Total Reconciliation Commission, and what we are, the penalty given to those who actually perpetrated the crimes into Sierra Leone. People are learning those things. And those lessons can easily be learned, and it can be updated into the curriculum of Liberia or into the syllabi of Liberia in time of the education system, so that it will help to create a positive thing. Then today, Sierra Leone is watching herself as a country with the precedent that was set based on those who found themselves. Like Hinga Norman died in Senegal, who was the leader of the Civil Defense Force. Swode Sanko died while he was in prison awaiting his trial. with the leader of the AFRC, that's Johnny Paul Kuruma, up to now, he's still regarded as being alive, but he's claimed that he's dead. Sambokari died on the war front in Liberia. Others are sent into prison. So all of those things are going to be there. So there will be a deterrent for anybody who maybe have the intention to sponsor war into Sierra Leone. And finally, we have strong institutions today because of the impact of the special court into Sierra Leone. And even now, people are thinking twice not to perpetrate anything into Sierra Leone because they know what it may take. If you do anything, the laws are there, and those institutions today have been transformed positively, and they almost use them as a reference point to what do we say. Unfortunately, Liberia does not have a reference point into that direction because the culture of impunity is still continuing. Then finally, my closing statement is that folks across the globe, especially Liberians, it is high time they turn their civil activity that is very positive and urge the government, especially the government of George Weah, to live up to her own responsibility, because that was what the government promised them in 2018. Let them remember the social contract that they signed, and they should be held responsible for everything that may go good or bad into the country. And they should stop listening to politicians who masterminded the downfall, because the war in Liberia was a well-planned, a well-syndicated act, a deliberate act to call destruction of life and property. And those people need to be brought to book so that the layman, even though he may not be wealthy today, but let there be peace. Those who are amputated, those who are raped, those whose homes we are destroyed, those who are no longer having peace because of the trauma, they lost their loved one, let them be at least at peace. Just like the Thomas Sankara trial is taking place today in Burkina Faso, to ensure that those who participated into his killing, let the widow of Thomas Sankara, Marian Sankara, be assured of our peace, and let the country understand that people were actually prosecuted for killing the national hero of their country. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Edward Amara, and your contribution is always appreciated on this channel, and we really appreciate what you've said here today concerning the WCC, and I hope our people are taking note. Like, I agree with you. My parting comment is this. Like I always say, no justice, no civilization. You want to build a culture, you want to build a civilization, you want to develop the foundation, the pillar is justice. No justice, no development. No justice, no advancement. Nothing. You can't do anything in any society if you don't build your justice system first, so that everybody has fair hearing, so that people are not cheated, so that people feel secure in their rooms. So people know that when they are cheated, they will seek justice and they will get justice. And justice must be done, and it must be seen to be done. This is the only way you can be able to build a progressive society. For those who are saying in Liberia, let the sleeping dog lie, I said the dog will not sleep. We cannot let the sleeping dog to lie in this situation. Imagine you and I live in the same house with families. You have your family and I have my family. Then something happened. People die. Then your children die, my children die. Then a few days later, we come back on the same roof. We want to live again. And there is no investigation. We don't find out why those children die. We didn't find out why the fighting happened in the first place. And we said we just want to live again together. Do you think we will trust each other? No, we cannot, until we establish a justice system to find out who started the problem, who did what, and we establish the truth. Then we can now come back under that roof with the belief that justice has been done. Then we can once again shake our hand with that understanding of reality. But if we do not establish that reality, we leave it hanging. Then our consciousness is hanging. Our future is hanging. Suspicion. We'll be treating each other with suspicion. There will be no trust. And we cannot build a happy home anymore. That's the problem. That's what is at stake. It has to be done. So I am saying the culture of impunity can only to end it. There has to be a justice system. But where I differ with many people is that I am for restorative justice. That's not the opinion or focus on Liberia. It's my personal opinion. I am for restorative justice. We restore the order. We take care of the victim. We find out what happened. We establish the cause of the civil war and make sure it doesn't happen again. Those who broke the rules of engagement in war are in clear violation must be dealt with according to the law. That's the only way we can move forward. With that, folks, We thank you always for watching Focus on Liberia. We will close, and we will see you again next week, Wednesday at 1 p.m. on Roundtable Africa, where we bring you the best from around the continent of Africa. Thank you.
We are